I was going to ask you if there is this lacuna, it was same, or this difference between the Constitution and the laws guiding the power sector. Why is it that no state government ever thought it worth its salt to go to court over that?
Hey, I've been pinching them. Guys, you're sleeping too much. You see, if we can't have what there's something I wrote in a newspaper. I call it national grid or national greed. GRID is the grid. I call it national GREED. Because it doesn't just make sense that federal government will be the one to regulate power in Abuja, in Lagos, in Bayelsa, in rural communities, on the streets, everywhere, in every home. It doesn't make sense. Now, every aspect of power is privatized. The only aspect that is not privatized is the transmission company of Nigeria, which is given to Manitoba. Even Manitoba was problematic. I had to write strategically. I saw the trend that we were not heading the right direction, and I put pen to paper. That's what scholars do. And I chose my forum to be Manitoba Law Journal. I took the message home to Manitoba because of even my interest in that part of the world, in Canada. And I told them what to do. Guys, be careful. You're headed for destruction if you go this way. And the message was very loud and clear. People said, well, maybe I wanted to sabotage them. I wanted to scare them. I said, no, I was just saying, for you to get it right in Nigeria, do this. Nigerian government, for you to get it right, do this. And when they were having the initial problems, people said, oh, maybe I knew it was going to happen. I said, no, I wouldn't need to be a magician. I saw it coming. So that, of course, they went back to the drawing board and they readjusted themselves, and Manitoba is still managing transmission company of Nigeria. But the issue is this: Manitoba Hydro is a regional player, something like a co-distribution company managing our national grid, whereas Lagos state government cannot manage transmission, generation, and distribution, which it has powers under the law, under the constitution to do. And nobody has challenged that. Of course, when the issue came up, they said, well, they needed to reform the law. They agree with most of my points, a whole lot of them. I said, even the power sector, to me, is over-regulated. We have a lot of regulation that should be tidied up into one or two documents for regulation. You have regulation on this, regulation on that. Nigerians are not aware of that, and those are very important regulations. So we need to tidy up those things. And the role of government now is strictly to regulate, because everything is privatized. And we need a very serious regulator. Some law offices will come to us to consult for them on some of these things. Once they draft some of the power purchase agreement, technical services agreement, I say, oh, this is not going to fly in Nigeria, because it doesn't just fit or doesn't speak to the home realities at home. So a lot still to be done in terms of the knowledge base, in terms of the skill set, in terms of the operational environment, in terms of the regulatory issues, in terms of the safety issues, health issues, consumer protection issues. A whole lot.
And I think that's what most Nigerians will love to hear, because the big players in the industry, ultimately, if they're not too careful and meticulous about putting pen to paper with those nitty-gritty things that you've pointed out, the ultimate sufferer will be the ordinary Nigerian, the consumer. And you just said something about increment in electricity tariff that mustn't go on except some certain things are put in place.
Definitely.
Let's go back to that and see what we can draw from that.
The problem is even much more than that. One, strictly speaking, granted that we are reforming, trying to attract the foreign investors to come, we should not, on the guise of that, violate our laws or the Constitution. Clearly, before you increase electricity tariffs, there are technical mechanisms called tariff methodology. Those are elements of competition, this and that. Of course, they just back down some of those factors when the NRC said they were actually reducing tariffs. But then, if you must jack up tariffs, you must have your methodologies intact, and you must have basis for that. And you cannot do that except you have metered everybody. So that we know, of course, if you take it from 1 naira to 10 naira, I want to determine, oh, now this is out of my reach. Let me consume 12 naira. Let me do 50 kobo. Let me do less.
That option is not there if you're.
That option is not there, because once it jacks up and the estimated billing, of course, goes up automatically. That should not be. Another aspect of consumer communities, really, if I may say, is revocation right. with the advent of the private sector, we expect a lot of land issues, a lot of property issues. But the law is seriously problematic. I had to write on that also. The law says if a private sector, of course, power sector now is privatized, if land is needed for electricity purposes by companies, they're going to revoke my right to land and give me whatever compensation under the Land Use Act, which is definitely inadequate. In developed countries like UK, as against revocation of right to land, we have compulsory purchase, which means really we need this plot of land for this captive generation. Guy, name your price, I'm going to pay. As against revoking someone's land for a going concern, a private entity. That is what we have in the law now, and that's
the Land Use Act.
Yeah, no, in the Electric Power Sector Reforms Act.
But isn't that what they say Land Use Act is? The
no, so
government
what the law says is that if you need land for purpose of electricity, the governor can revoke for the
public
purpose,
interest.
Presumably, it should be for public interest because power is listed as one of the basis for revocation of land. And I said, no, that only envisaged the situation when we were under a kind of national monopoly of NEPA. You cannot revoke someone's land for a private concern. There's no public interest.
What if that private concern is for distributing power purposes to the entire state?
So
for instance,
if it's a state government entity, that's understandable. But if you revoke someone's land for a disco that is privatized, it's going to be problematic. Those are the and again,
loopholes there.
It's still even talking about the dispute resolution framework, where you only resolve dispute at the level of NRCs. It's still a lot of issues with the power sector. We need to sit down, get the legal framework right, get the regulatory framework right, get the consumer issues right, get the a whole lot.
Yeah,